Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
how's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and join me today for my overview of the latest printing of X Factor by Peter David, Omnibus Volume 1 from Marvel Comics. So let's take a look at this book together. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this new printing. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on July 29th or 30th, depending on where you get your books. What we are looking at here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that is supplied by Larry Stroman. And before we look at the direct market cover, because I actually have that version, this is how it will look on your shelf right there. So you have the classic X Factor, we have a volume 2, of course, and then this particular volume. We need like one more in between classic X Factor 2 and X Factor by Peter David. So let's go ahead and do a comparison, because they are using this for the direct market cover. This is the Joe Quesada cover, and this one here for the standard edition cover again. So you have X Factor by Peter David, the Marvel logo up there, down here for the Quesada cover. And the spines are a little bit different. The X Factor Classic is in yellow on red, while this one here is white on blue, and you have a different picture here. This one is by Tom Rainey, if I'm not mistaken, and then this one here is by Larry Stroman. And then, of course, the back of the books right here, both of them retailing for $100. And all new, all different, and all bets are off. And oh my gosh, I love this era of X Factor. Underneath the dust jacket, that is the exact same image as we have in the new printing. It's the one by Joe Quesada. So we'll do an internal comparison here in a little bit. But it is this piece right here from the annual, the Shattershot annual. All right, let's open this up, talk about the stories in here, look at the content, and you know what? I miss Peter David, and I love this book. And I've already done an overview of it a few years back with the original printing, so this time around, I'm just going to go ahead and do spoilers. I want to talk about these issues, what makes them so phenomenal, to me at least, and to a lot of other people that really enjoy this era. But yes, let's go ahead and open it up and talk about the book. All right, let's go ahead and get this open. You have your black end sheets there. And title page, X Factor by Peter David, but also by Fabian Nicieza, Scott Lobdell, Skip Dietz, Shauna David. Oh, that's right. Joe Quesada and J.M. DeMatteis. I love that they gave Shauna a credit. Kirk Jarvinen and Larry Stroman, Dale Keown, Joe Quesada are some of your top pencilers here. Your inkers like Joseph Rubinstein, Al Milgram, Mark Farmer. And colorists like Glynis Oliver, Mike Thomas, and Kevin Tinsley, Joe Roses. Letterers like Michael Hasler, Joe Rosen, and Dave Sharp. Now, here's your table of contents, and of course, where you're going to find each of these issues. Spoilers, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, because I just want to have fun talking about these stories. So we start off with issue number 70 of X Factor, which is actually the aftermath of a storyline called the Muir Island saga, which can be found in the pages of Chris Claremont and Jim Lee's X-Men Omnibus Volume 2. But it is where the Shadow King had taken over a bunch of the mutants that were living on Muir Island, and that's why you're going to see the status quo here quickly change. And Legion, of course, he was in possession of him, and it kind of leaves Legion in a comatose stage. I love Kirk's artwork here. He's a very underrated artist. I'm not sure what I've said in the past when I reviewed this 4 or 5 years ago when it came out, but I don't go back and watch my videos, so I'm gonna maybe repeating myself in case you watch all my videos. But yes, this is just showing you what is to come, and there's a lot of closure here for a lot of these stories. Mystique, for example, we thought was dead, so Rogue having this interaction with her, and then where some of these characters fit in. I love this moment, by the way. Like Strong Guy doesn't know what he's doing here. He was just on Muir Island during this particular time. So was Polaris. She was taken over by Maoists for a while, and it ended up in Muir Island's care. So a lot of these mutants are kind of don't really belong with the X-Men. And Professor Xavier trying to rescue his son's mind. And then, of course, when he comes out, he realizes, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all these X-Men? Including the ones that, were on Muir Island. We got new X-Men like Gambit. What am I going to do with 14 X-Men? And that's where it kicks off with the new era of X-Men with X-Men, Adjectiveless X-Men #1. By Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, and that's all she wrote. But for X Factor, they wanted to revamp it. So I love the fact that this is really a first issue right here, their first adventure. So you have the character of Havoc, Guido, and Polaris, and Multiple Man, and Wolfsbane, who is coming out of the pages of New Mutants because of the events that happen in the Extinction Agenda. So she has like this connection to Havoc, which Peter David will explore. This all starts off as a joke trying to open up a mayo jar, and it's all a joke by none other than, of course, Jamie Madrox. So this is Val Cooper, who is working for the government, and the government has disbanded the Freedom Force. So characters like the Crimson Commando and Stonewall and those characters either died or they just got rid of them because, well, some of them just turned into villains and formed the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So she's trying to recruit new mutants to join this new government program, which will be called X Factor. And one of those mutants happens to be Cyclops' brother, Havoc, here again in Genosha, trying to repair it after everything that happened, and in a way atoning for his sins, if you will. While you have Wolfsbane that is still bonded to him because of everything that happened in the Extinction Agenda. You've got Quicksilver showing up here, and then Cyclops with his old costume. So right before X-Men #1, telling his brother that he should be with X Factor. He needs to come back and join the side of the Angels. Quicksilver appearing through here and kind of trying to find his place in this world. And not a lot of love for the character of Quicksilver, regardless of how long he spent with the Avengers. A lot of people still saw him as a villain. And then, of course, Polaris. I think Peter David is one of the few writers that actually knows how to properly write the character of Polaris. A lot of people just kind of throw her to the side and kind of write her like a crazy character, but she's not. She's so much more complex than that. So yeah, no one could open the mayo jar except for Valerie Cooper. As it turns out, it is nothing but a joke by Jamie Madrox, who gets shot and killed in the first issue. What the hell? You killed Madrox? Why? We still don't have the costumes yet. But as it turns out, it was just a dupe of Madrox. I love Strong Guy and the way that he works out with that young lady just beating on his muscles. But it turns out that, of course, when you're dealing with the Multiple Man, you have a character that kind of went rogue. So he's kind of losing track of those dupes of his. All the duplicates that have been around, including the one that kind of fell in love with Siren from the pages of Fallen Angel. So, there's so much research and so much X-Men lore that Peter David explored that it makes for such a good book. So we finally get the introduction of them. We got Multiple Man, Polaris, Havoc, Wolfsbane, Quicksilver, and at the last second, this guy, whoa, you must be the Strong Guy of the team. What's your code name? And he's like, Strong Guy. You can't call yourself Strong Guy. That's ridiculous. I love the way that Alex and Guido just react to each other, how ridiculous it is. So the real Jamie Madrox approaches them and he's like, hey, that's not the real Multiple Man. I'm the real Multiple Man. Larry Stroman coming in with this kinetic energy with a lot of anime influence with all these action lines going here. I'm a big fan of his artwork, and I realized at the time, he wasn't for everybody. Again, this obsession that starts off with this bond between Rain and Havoc, because she has completely, for a while, forgotten about Richter, but he has not forgotten about her. And that will come to play a little bit later. We have the introduction of new characters. This is Slab that will appears here just to pick a fight with Strong Guy. And it all leads into this issue right here, 75, with the introduction of also the Senator Stephen Shafran, who has his own secret because he also happens to be a mutant. But here we have Gorgeous George and Hairbag and Slab and the team leader Ruckus and his buddy Ramrod, that's his name. And this is Ramrod and that's Ruckus. Ruckus has like absorbing powers of, like, he can absorb sounds and throw them back at people and just amplify them if he needs to. Kind of like Banshee and Dazzler if you were to mix them together. And Jamie Madrox is also working for them. So you've got like this evil Jamie Madrox, you've got the good Jamie Madrox, who's the real Jamie Madrox, and it kind of becomes almost like a trope throughout the whole series. But how in the hell did Mr. Sinister come back? Which all, of course, leads into the pages of the X-cutioner song. But Mr. Sinister's done with the Marauders. He's starting over anew with these new characters called the Nasty Boys. My favorite jokes through here are these right here. Like, this is Dr. Vic Chalker, who is... he's got this vendetta against X-Factor. He created this exosuit, but didn't give it enough of a battery life, so the exosuit just ends up dying out there, and he dies, right? Like, that's what happens. You'll see a lot of that kind of humor through here, where these characters have this vendetta against X-Factor and mutants. They create something or they turn into something, and then they end up dying. And it's just so stupid and fun. I love it. But as I mentioned, the Senator has his own secret, and he tries to turn on Mr. Sinister. And Sinister, of course, isn't going to have it that way. Are you kidding me? There's the pinup right here by Tom Rainey. You have the Classic 5 and the new, all different X-Factor. And then we jump into the War and Pieces storyline. Man, this is so deep. There is a big war in Transabal where the Pantheon is involved. And the Pantheon, during this time, the Hulk is part of them. So you have the minister there and the president there who, you know, are going to war with a small country. And the Pantheon, along with Hulk, are kind of helping out with this big war that's happening. And of course, the US government gets involved, and they send out none other than X-Factor, the other book that was written by Peter David. So you get to see Del Keown do, like, artwork, like, his interpretation of these characters. Havoc's outfit looks a little different here, though. It's like he's not wearing his jacket. Lorna's outfit looks a little bit different than the way that Strowman drew her. This is a really powerful issue right here. Issue 76. After getting knocked out by the Hulk, Rain wakes up and he finds his brother and sister. Long story short, the brother ends up killing the sister, and it causes her to go into a rage. Like, she goes into like a feral rage, and we are led to believe that she kills the brother. It's not really revealed here, but we will find out later what ended up happening. But when she is picked up by Pietro, she says that she's going to burn in hell, like, for her sins. So this whole storyline was this big just reason to put the Hulk up against X-Factor and have them fight, put them up against Pantheon, and then of course take down this horrible leader. We finally have X-Force stepping in here. Cannonball shows up, along with the Mutant Liberation Front, as we find out that Thumbelina, the character from the Mutant Liberation Front, I love this shot right here, is actually related to Slab, that new Nasty Boy. So her, Strobe, Reaper, Wildside, and Forearm, and Tempo go and rescue her brother. And take along some of the other Nasty Boys, too, with them back to the Mutant Liberation Front. We get to see the good side of Tempo here, which is something that both Peter David and Fabian Nicieza were kind of hinting at for a long time. And I love that about the complexity when it comes to these characters. We only get the Shattershot Part 3 here, which is, of course, the big Mojo storyline. But it's okay. This one is drawn by Joe Quesada. And it's okay that it's only the third part. These stories really aren't connected, but it's just X-Men, Adjectiveless X-Men, and X-Force, and of course, X-Factor dealing with Mojoverse. They're the ones that are fighting Spyro. And we have Drowning in Paperwork, not drawing, by Derek Robertson here, where Valerie Cooper is having a nightmare about all these paperworks and drowning in them. And pinups by Bill Sienkiewicz, and this cute little story about this kid that's getting bullied by Joe Mad, penciling this. And then, of course, Guido helping him out. Oh, man, this is so sad right here. But this is the story where Madrox ends up falling in love with this mutant named Rhapsody. My boy, Strong Guy, goes on a date with Sean Young, who at the time was trying out for the role of Catwoman and got, unfortunately, did not make it. We have this cute little story here of Rain's World, which of course is a take on Wayne's World. And then we have some new characters here. This is Hell's Bells. You have Vague and Briquette and Tremolo and Flambe. And all of them are working for the character of Cyber. Rhapsody gets arrested for killing people. And Madrox still has this love for her. Cyber ends up with getting poisoned. And he doesn't want to... I love this. This kind of shows you the chemistry between the characters and just how awesome of a character Alex is. So Guido does not want to take the antidote. And Alex is like, here, I'll see if there's any side effects. I'll drink it. All right, now you take it. And I thought that was so cool. But later on, you find out... Oh, that's right, the expatriates show up from Genosha here. Later on, you find out that he actually dumped the poison. That's right, he took the poison, that's what it was. So they can both have the antidote, because he didn't want one of his teammates to be by himself. And as it turns out, that he dumped the poison and filled it with water. And I love this part right here. Summers, my respect for you has just increased 1,000-fold. You sank to the seat in order to gain loyalty. That is so awesome. So I mentioned the Freedom Force disbanding, not dispatching, but they have now formed the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So here they fight Pyro, they fight Toad, Sauron, and of course, the character of the Blob. Mark Pacella does this fill-in issue with the expatriates. These are mutants that came from Genosha, and they're seeking asylum here. Unfortunately, the world, especially here, has this fear of mutants during this time. Hell, they always had a fear of mutants. So one of them ends up losing their life. So we see how the expatriates react to that. And then, of course, we've got the X-cutioner song crossover right here. There's a lot of funny dialogue, but a lot of awful things are happening through here. And I know I've talked about this before, where this is Jay Lee doing this artwork, but how artistic he was, and I did not... When I was a kid, I always thought this was a flower. I know I've talked about it on my channel so many times. I'm sure people are tired of hearing that. But I never caught it was Wolverine until I read it in trade paperback in like the late 90s. But when I was reading this in monthly, I was like, why is there a flower on Cable's like screen? Anyway, this is a big crossover that will be collected in X-Men Blue and Gold Omnibus that will be coming out in a couple of months. Ren and Stimpy issue 87. This book right here alone is worth the price of admission. This is the first Joe Quesada issue for the ongoing series, not the annual. And it's a character study, but done in the way by Doc Samson, who is having a therapy session with these characters. Here, you will understand these characters more and how they work and they see the world. These 2 pages, you will learn to respect and appreciate someone like Pietro, right? How he sees the world differently. This is like Lorna's issues that she's had with Wait. Like Guido, actually, who's the happy fun guy, actually has a dark and deep story of how his powers came to be, which is something that nobody really touched upon. You've got Multiple Man, who's the jokester, and why he pulls so many pranks. And then, of course, living under his brother's shadow is Havoc, and he just comes open to them, to Doc Samson. And this is where we get the new costume for Polaris. We are introduced to a new character. This is none other than Random. That's right. This is where we get his first appearance, Marshall Stone. And he will end up joining the team, but at first he works like kind of like a villain. These are some of the last Peter David issues right here. These are some more scientists that are ending up dying. And I'll talk a little bit where you can find them. We have the backup story right here where Pietro thinks that Crystal is cheating on him with one of her fellow Avengers. And as it turns out, he was. Unfortunately, looking at you, Black Knight, you had this whole like love triangle going on. So unfortunately, Peter David, because he got tired of crossovers, ended up leaving the book. So we got Scott Lobdell walking in here and taking over in the middle of a storyline where it takes him to Genosha and exploring the legacy virus. As a matter of fact, this something huge happens through here where both Moira McTaggart, later on we'll end up catching it, but Jamie Madrox ends up getting the legacy virus through here. This issue is actually drawn by Jan Duursema, but for some reason they credit Joe Quesada. This is Peter David's final issue here that is collected. This is the annual. And all those characters, all those villains that were planning against X-Factor, all come back here. They all come back from the dead, and they all fight against X-Factor. And they are stupid, like #1 fan, who has propellers for hands, like accidentally killed himself, the dinosaur guy, the guy that walked in the power suit. They all come back and fight X-Factor in this issue. It's so stupid. And then we get issue 92 right here. So really, this is the one by Scott Lobdell and J.M. DeMatteis. So really, this goes all the way to issue 92. So it collects a lot more, of course, than the Peter David run. This is the beginning of the Fatal Attraction storyline, which just recently reprinted, but it's where the Acolytes come to Earth to find the son of Magneto. And you do get some extra treats in the back right here. The return of Mesmero right here. But the bonus issue, I love the fact that they added this all the way in the back. And this is Peter David's first issue of X-Factor. I think it's Terry Schumacher that does the artwork. Yep, Terry Schumacher that does the artwork here. And it's all about Beast fighting against Mesmero. There are beautiful stories that are collected here. Absolutely beautiful stories, and one of them is Tribute. The first, there's 3 of these. This is Jean Grey going like to her grave and meeting this old lady that will kind of give her a life lesson. And I love every one of these. It's interesting to see just now, like because of Krakoa and everything, how many of these characters are already back. This is right here, the story of Doug Ramsey, how he's talking to another ghost about how no one comes and visits him. Rain used to come and visit him, and she no longer comes, and the ghosts are like, yeah, man, people forget about you. And it's so weird because this story stays with me. I don't know if it's the Catholic in me. I don't know if it's the Latino in me. But I go see it and talk to my dad. I talk to my dad at least, like, my dad passed away in October. And I go and visit his grave at least once a week because he's my father. And he deserves so much more than that. But, yeah, this one, didn't think about that until now. It just hits different. But even as a kid, I remember it staying with me. Like, why would you not go and visit your loved ones? I would go and see my grandmother and grandfather. It's just something that my dad taught me. This is a beautiful story. Again, a lot of this stuff has just been retconned. Not retconned, but just, people are now alive. But this is the Ashes of Destiny. And it's kind of a joke because she knew that Mystique would be dumping the ashes in the ocean and it would fall back on her face. And it's a little morbid, but it's just that type of humor, right, that comes with death. In the back, we are treated to some extras like pinups and also different covers here. Swimsuits. Oh, the swimsuits are back. Original artwork right here. The poly bag of the annual, and of course the X-Cutioner song. The trade paperback of Fallen or Fatal Attractions had extra pages because of the way they divvied up the pages, so you can have your spread pages. You have the trading cards back here, and then of course the numerous printings in different ways that you could have collected Peter David's run in Epic Collection now, honestly, and also in the Visionaries. And then your end sheet. So let's take a look at the binding, and then we'll do a comparison. The book has 848 pages and sewn binding, printed at the iMac printer. Funny enough, the original printing was printed at the iMac printer. So let's do a quick comparison here. This one printed in 2021 and this one in 2025. And paper stock honestly feels about the same. Yeah, it feels about the same. And it's been some years, which is weird, but let's see here. As far as the bleed through, it's still about the same type of bleed through. I will say the thing that this new printing has going for it, though, is the eye. Because if you look at the original printing and compare it to the eye of the new printing, I'm not going to say it's night and day, but it is better. So let's look at, right here, like a double page spread. so you get a little less gutter loss than you do over here in the original printing. If you've never read this is a funny freaking book. Every issue that Peter David wrote has some kind of joke that always made me laugh. And there's just something special about this era of X-Men. It was so different than Excalibur. It was so different than X-Force. It was so different than X-Men and Uncanny. And it just made me feel like I belonged with these characters. Like if I was actually a mutant and I wanted to join a team, this is the fun team I would join. Yes, there's horrible things that freaking happen, but that's life, right? You have a choice to drown in sadness or laugh about some things and pick yourself up and keep on moving. And I think those are the lessons that Peter David taught and did so well through his writing. It cracked me up, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't laugh easy at things, especially in comics. Sometimes the jokes just make me roll my eyes. But when it came to Peter David, to this day, some of these jokes still land. Like, I love the whole, like, it's so immature, but during the X-cutioner song, when they're like, we gotta go and find Cable. Like, they're looking for Cable, right? Because he shot Professor X. But, like, Strong Guy's like, oh, cool, maybe we could get, like, HBO and the Disney Channel for Rain. And I don't know why. That immature humor still stays with me. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code Near Mint Condition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build, and of course comparison to the original printing. Let me know in the comments down below if you missed out on it and you need it in your library. If you're a big fan of this particular era of X Factor, or just a big fan of Peter David. And yes, I'm going to miss him. There were so many more stories that he could have written about these characters. But yeah, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.